Hey everyone, just saying hello.
Good afternoon. Nice to not, I can't see anybody, I guess, but nice to hear a voice.
Yeah, I don't have a camera in this room, so I just get to be a voice, which is okay with me.
Lots of times I deliberately do that, so.
Okay, who do we have? This is Dan.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hey, Sue.
I'm going to be sending you another email on some stuff because there's confusion.
Okay. I'll be here.
Hey, Jay, I just promoted you to a panelist, so you should be good to go. Hi, Margaret. Are you here for somebody?
I'm just here to watch the meeting.
Okay, just checking in. Thank you.
Sure. I'm just trying to set up my double screen here with our agenda, and we'll get started in just a minute.
Theresa, we do have a member of the public with us today. You probably saw. Just letting you know.
Thank you, Heidi. And Heidi, I noticed on the agenda, were we going to postpone reviewing and approving the minutes for February?
Yes, if that's okay.
Yep, that's totally fine.
Thank you. Not enough hours in a day, I'm afraid.
No. Heidi, did you get anybody tell you that they couldn't attend today? Just seeing how long we should wait before we kick it off.
You know, I believe Gwen Jones and Juanita Vero are coming, so we might want to wait a few more minutes or another minute or two. I mostly am contacted by people who want to attend. So,
Great.
although Emily Armstrong couldn't make it today either.
Okay.
Jake Rosling is coming too. He just said he'd be a little late.
Thank you. Well, and hopefully everyone's had a chance to see the agenda and all of the documents that Ginny will be reviewing for us. Ginny, you have a lot on deck coming up. You're on mute.
Can I eat my lunch while I talk?
I don't mind.
Not enough hours in the day over here at the mayor's office.
Yeah. Well, we'll
Hey, I
just.
see.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry about that. I see that Kyla joined from Missoula County, so I'm wondering if that's actually Juanita.
It could be.
Possibly. Okay.
Oops, this is Juan, and or Juanita, and I apologize. I can only be on my phone, so I'm the 406-360-5821 if I'm showing up as a phone number.
You're showing up as Kyla.
Oh, okay.
Not a bad thing.
It's
Okay, well, I think since we have the majority of folks here and I don't want to waste anyone's time, I know we have a lot on our agenda to go over today. So we'll just welcome those folks that come on, Gwen and others that are going to be a little bit late. So good afternoon. My name is Theresa Williams and I am the chair of the Mayor's Downtown Advisory Commission. It's great to see all of you. Let's go around and do introductions so we know and the public knows who is attending today. I'm just going to go around and call on you and we'll have you introduce yourself. And let's start with Ryan Boyd.
I am Ryan Boyd and I am with the Salvation Army of Missoula.
Thanks, Ryan. And how about Elizabeth?
Howdy, howdy, Elizabeth Marshall with the Missoula Housing Authority. I manage the Palace Apartments and Uptown Apartments downtown and a sixplex just across the river.
Whoops, and Jill.
Jill Bonney, Executive Director of the Poverello Center.
And Ginny.
Ginny Merriam, Communications Director for the city.
And Jay.
Jay Gilhouse. I'm the designated downtown police officer with Missoula Police Department and the Business Improvement District.
Thank you. And Sue.
There we go. Sue Wilkins, I'm the Executive Director of Missoula Correctional Services.
Thank you, Sue. And Dan.
Dan Suderberg, I'm on the bid board and the Missoula Downtown Foundation board.
And Heidi.
I'm Heidi Bakula. I work with Ginny Merriam in the mayor's office.
We're so grateful for you and helping us with this meeting. Thank you, Heidi. And Juanita.
Hi, I'm Juanita Vero, one of the county commissioners.
We can see you. You're not just a phone number.
Okay.
There you are. Thanks, Juan. And I believe Margaret is a member of the public. Is that correct, Heidi?
Actually, Margaret was unable to come today.
Okay. The other person that we see on the screen, though.
That is actually, yes, sorry. That is
Okay.
a different Margaret.
Perfect. Okay. Well,
Margaret is a news reporter for KECI NBC Montana.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, next on the agenda is public comment. Is there any members of the public that would like to make a comment at this time? Heidi, I can't see if there's anyone else on the other end.
Sorry, Teresa. No, we are good. We just have Margaret.
Okay, well then that leads us. So we are going to skip over reviewing and approving the minutes. So we'll do that in our next meeting. So next on the agenda is, sorry, there's a train going by behind me. Next on the agenda is Ginny. We'll have you kick us off with your topic, please.
Okay, my topic is the fact that we are closing the emergency winter shelter that is a city-county project managed by the Poverello Center that has operated since November 1st, and it will be closing April 18th. And I just wanted you all to be aware of this because I always have remembered ever since I think it was last summer when Dan had said to us, I'm not informed enough on what local government is doing in regarding homelessness and people living unsheltered. And I think you all should know, since you are out in the public and people expect you to know what is the city doing, and you should be able to answer that question. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what our situation is, what we anticipate it to be when we close the emergency winter shelter on April 18th. So we are closing it because it has two adjectives, emergency and winter. And winter creates an emergency for us in Montana because it's so cold. And after last night, I was thinking, oh, well, it's a good thing we haven't closed the emergency winter shelter yet because it's back. I think that's short-lived though. We know for a fact that we do not have in Missoula enough indoor beds for all the people who need shelter. We have multiple choices for people who are looking for shelter or looking for a place to camp, but even all of those places cannot accommodate everybody who is looking. So we last week sent out a pretty extensive press release. We had some really great news coverage. Particularly Dave Erickson at the Missoulian has done two very good stories talking about the challenges before the community in trying to take care of people. And he did one story that ran on Sunday that was about an individual who actually works at the Johnson Street shelter and accidentally became homeless herself when her landlord decided to remodel. I just thought that story was so illustrative, and the woman was so courageous and wonderful in talking about everything she talked about. It was a wonderful story. So we also, Emily Armstrong, our houselessness specialist here at the city, has made a flyer that, Heidi, I can't remember if I gave you the flyer to attach to the agenda, but if anybody would like, yes? Okay, good.
I believe so.
So this flyer is readily available to print and hand out to people saying these are your choices. So in Missoula now, we have the Poverello Center, which is still at reduced capacity per CDC guidelines. And Jill tells us they are still running full every night. We have the temporary safe outdoor space that is operated by United Way and Hope Rescue Mission with support from the county. It has 20 tents and a very supportive, staff-rich environment. They've been very successful through the winter, but it's limited. And they are not always full, but pretty close. City and county have also established the authorized camping site, which is an alternative for people who do not wish to come indoors, but just want a place that's safe to pitch their tents. And it is over off Clark Fork Lane. There are 40 tent sites there, and they are also pretty much full every night. Jill tells us, Jill, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, that approximately 80 people a night are still sleeping at the Johnson Street Center. And we know that not all of those people are going to immediately find a place to go.
Yep, correct.
I think as a city, the local government, we're well aware that most people who live in Missoula do want their local governments to help people. There are some people who are queasy about public money and public resources going to help people, but it's mostly a supportive atmosphere. People also understand that at this time, we cannot take care of everybody who is living unsheltered. We balance that caring notion with the need for public safety. And so we protect public safety as well. And I had Heidi attach the incident action plan that we've been using through the winter, and as our approach to illegal camps. And our idea is to prevent unsafe, unsanitary, unhealthy camps of size from being established in public places. And you can look at that incident action plan and see what we do. Our first responders there are our homeless outreach team members who work for the Poverello Center and are trained to help people problem solve and think through alternatives that they might explore. Having police sometimes assist. It's a farther down the line resource for us. We also balance the need to be mindful of the Ninth Circuit Court ruling out of the city of Boise that told municipalities in the whole Ninth Circuit District, we're not to criminalize homelessness. So writing people tickets for camping or throwing people in jail for camping is not a best practice, and that is not something that we're doing, but we are attempting to balance taking care of people as best we can with respecting their rights, with respecting public safety as well. So we will see what happens. April 18th, we all wish there were a magical thing would happen and we would have plentiful, affordable housing for everybody. That's probably not going to happen by April 19th. But city and county continue to problem solve and think through services that we need for people in addition to additional housing that will help people be more successful in being housed and staying housed. So I wanted you to know all that information so that the next person who says to you, it doesn't look to me like the city's doing anything about people who are living unsheltered, you will be able to say, no, in fact, there are several places people can go, and we balance that with also trying to protect public safety. I am not the person who does any of this work hands-on, and I am breaking my own rule here that we have at the city, which is the communications person puts the people who do the work out in front to talk. But since you all know me, and I've been communicating about this, probably like 40% of my communications time all winter has been on this topic because reporters have inquiries and so does the public. So if you have questions, I can maybe answer, or we also have Jill here and Jay.
It looks like Dan Cedarberg has his hand up.
Yeah, Ginny, thanks. I appreciate this. This will be helpful for me when I talk to folks who ask me questions about this. But the other question I have is the facilities that are going in out by the jail. what's the status of those? When are they near coming online, or where are they at?
You know, I think, Jill, are you more informed about this, or Teresa, than I would be about Trinity?
I think
No.
the most, so I don't have a timetable. I don't even want to guess. I've heard some different estimates. I do know just recently a team of folks, including Emily Armstrong and Anna Nillis, who oversees the Fuse initiative at Partnership. They did go and tour a few places for models, others, so they could see other programs that are actually doing this on the ground right now. That's all I know right now. Jill, do you have any other updates?
I don't know anything on timeline or anything. Jenny, I wonder, yeah, Emily would probably know.
She does. Then I could get a closer date for you. The last I heard was a year from this fall, which seems really far, and the building looks so developed.
That's why I didn't want to guess,
Yeah.
Jenny, because I had heard a different date that was much earlier than that. So that's why I just don't want to even.
Yeah, I'm thinking
guess.
sooner than that, but I will ask someone who knows, Dan, and drop you.
I just did. This is Elizabeth Marshall with the Housing Authority. I just
Elizabeth,
called.
oh, you would know, right?
Well, I know, not up here. I'm way too busy with my 3 properties, but I just was able to reach my supervisor, Mary Milton, real quick. And at this point, we're on track for occupancy in November.
And to
Okay,
be clear, that's for Trinity,
Trinity.
the
Yep.
workforce housing and the permanent supportive housing units, but not the navigation center. And
Yeah.
Dan, I think you're wondering about both of those things, right? The homes and the navigation center. So at least we know homes are projected for this November. Is that what you said, Elizabeth? And then, but
Yeah,
we need
occupancy.
to ask, okay, and then we need to ask Emily on the navigation center that's a part of that building.
I was more interested in homes and
Okay.
remind me, how are we looking at there? Does anybody know that one?
What was the question, Dan?
how
I missed it.
many?
How many units? Yeah.
I know it's between 2 sites, the total combined number. I bet you it's on Engage page somewhere, Jenny. We could dig it up. But I do know that the 30 permanent supportive housing homes, there's 30 of those units that are being next to the jail.
So those would be available to people who were homeless or without shelter and needed a home immediately, right?
And they do have to meet some HUD definitions for chronic homelessness and also having a disability, 1 or more disabilities.
So I think bottom line is that Trinity will be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. How much does it have for inventory of housing that's available? So thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And I have another update. Luckily, my supervisor who oversees that, the asset manager, she was able to pick up another call. Total of 202 units, 30 permanent supportive housing. Of that, 30 are permanent supportive housing, and those are the units that Theresa was saying the folks moving into those will need to meet the HUD definitions for chronic homelessness.
Mhm.
And yep, Juan put that in there as well. So I'm wondering, Juan, is the 130 units, and so 160 total are next to the jail, and then 42, if my math is right, I'm a social worker, not good at math, is on the north side.
I'm sorry, I thought it was 130 at Trinity next to the jail with 30 of those supportive.
I
So
see.
it'd just
I
be
think so.
100 would be work
Okay. Gotcha.
for
Okay, so 2 is, yeah.
Trinity. And I know at Bellagio is, sorry, Dan, are you fully confused now?
So, I mean, I don't need, down to the unit. I just wanted a general idea, and you guys have given me that. I appreciate it.
I think it's important too, Dan, that you ask that, because I think often we say, oh, there's so much housing coming online. But not all of that housing is affordable to people with very low incomes. And so Trinity will be especially important because it will be accessible for some people with very low incomes.
Right. So,
Other questions for Ginny? Ginny, is all of this linked up to the Engage page? I haven't checked in a minute.
Yes,
Okay. Do you mind putting that link in the chat for us when you get a second?
sure.
We can share that. Last call for questions for Ginny before we move on to quality of life issues. Okay, well, let's move on to the next agenda item. Thank you so much, Ginny, for bringing that to this group. So this next area is, the mayor could not join us today, but these are updates that he does receive. And so we have a lot of folks from the downtown area. So I'm just gonna go round robin. And if you have any updates for us on any quality of life issues in the downtown area, you can say pass if you'd like to say pass, but I'm just gonna go around. So let's start with Elizabeth. Any updates?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Jay and his team at the police department. We regularly have members of our unhoused community during the cold weather. They'll follow residents in who, 12:30 in the morning, they're not going to want to get in a fight with a stranger, and they'll come up and make themselves comfy on our comfortable couch in our community room to get some sleep. And I just really appreciate the prompt responses. We've had 2 calls from residents to have such interlopers removed. They definitely need a warm place to stay, but not in our community room.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Let's turn over to Jay.
If I can figure out how to unmute. Thank you. And I don't want to repeat anything that Ginny was talking about, because a lot of it so closely parallels everything that I'm trying to do and the efforts that are being taken by the city to address a lot of these problems. The recent media coverage that has popped up with the camping in the city and the efforts that are being made, and our patrol captain, Captain Rosling, coming out with an article talking about the limitations of law enforcement and what we can do. And that highlights a gap in this, is that when a solution comes, or when a problem comes up as a police department, we are trying to divert this to other community resources and get social work involved and build these bridges and give a designated area where they're not going to have the least amount of negative community impact, but also serve their purposes. And there's a lot of stuff that we are doing. Where the gap is with recreational vehicles and RVs, and when all else fails and we just don't have anybody. So there are a number of individual circumstances with recreational vehicles and people who are service resistant and just don't, and they will not move. Then we have a stalemate between a community and an individual experiencing homelessness. And we are lacking the amount of resources within this community to be able to appropriately address that. We're lacking, I think, some of the laws in the city, and we're also lacking some resources within the community. And I love the fact that we have these types of conversations, because we can bring these types of conversations to the table, to have these conversations to think outside of the box, maybe come up with some more resources or some ideas to help each other, because there's definitely a gap in what we can do. And as law enforcement, I'm stuck in the middle, being the enforcement, which I have limited problems, but I also want to help on the social work end too. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle in that regard. So I really appreciate these types of conversations. As far as the downtown area goes, I was just speaking with Linda, who just popped in a few minutes ago, and in the downtown area, Linda was telling me, and as far as from my perspective goes, we have the complaints about homelessness in the downtown area are very low. And that's just, we're not seeing it like we used to in the downtown area. I don't know what the reason is, but I think that in some regards, we are doing some things right in that. And it's have the negative impact on the downtown community is been improving, let's say. So I think that's all I had. So thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Any questions so far for Elizabeth or Jay? I forgot to ask.
Yeah, this is Juan or Juanita, and you mentioned laws needing to change, Jay, and is that city laws or state level? Kind of what level are you talking about? Or if you had a magic wand, what law would help you do your work?
I believe our city ordinances are older than the Supreme Court ruling that is kind of guiding us at this point. Ginny made reference to Martin versus Boise, which is the Supreme Court of Appeals ruling that covers not criminalizing an unintended consequence of being homeless. Our city ordinances that address the act of camping in the city and stuff like that were written before that guidance of those laws. So I believe the city ordinances do need to be at least looked at and reviewed, because I'm not really sure of the constitutionality of them at this point, quite frankly. And that's the one thing that we do have to fall back on. So I think as far as the city goes, our ordinances are a little outdated because the Supreme Court's kind of overruled them. And then from a police department standpoint or the city attorney or the prosecution standpoint, city attorneys and stuff like that, there are some other avenues that we haven't gone down. And I just need to have those conversations with the city attorneys to figure out if there's some existing directions that we can go that we just haven't in the past, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if I could help. And if I could help explain or, further expand, I think, Jay and I work closely together, and I think he gets stuck in this position of, well, I am a law enforcement. We do have these city ordinances, but at the same time, he understands we can't just move the problem literally around the block. And I also think he also understands, and a lot of law enforcement too, and community members, citing just creates more barriers to help these people. They already have all these barriers in the system. Citing just adds another element of even feeling more overwhelmed, more stuck, and it takes it even longer for people to get help. So I think we have these conflicts of we want to help address the underlying issues that are contributing, but again, resource, bed capacity, housing costs, barriers, those are all issues. Let's go. Let's see, Elizabeth, you have a comment. Looking through it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions before I put Jill on the spot? Okay, Jill, any updates? Oh, sorry. Margaret, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. So this kind of goes off of what Jay was talking about. I know Jenny mentioned that this action plan to remove camps. I saw that document just a couple of days ago. But as Jay was saying, it does seem like there are some roadblocks when it comes to RVs. So can either Jay or Jenny or anyone else really, I'll open it up, talk about how we kind of handle those situations? Can they really be removed or just kind of moved to another location? Because it does seem like it may be a different plan when it comes to RVs versus tents.
So, yeah, I can answer to that. The city has provided an alternative for tents. That's what the approved camping site is, and that is specific to tents. We have not addressed, or at least not to the point where we can really use anything, RVs. And the people who have RVs, that is their home. They don't want to give that up, and they'd rather stay in their RV than they would a tent, and they don't want to give that up. So they're going to stay on the street in their RVs. There is a city ordinance that addresses camping in a recreational vehicle on a city street. But then we come into what is the constitutionality of that? And how do we enforce that? And if it is, that is a citation. That is not a forceful removal. That is not an arrest. That is not anything. So how do we remove an RV from the street? I think that we provide as much social work as we possibly can and ask them to move around. And it does kind of turn into a situation where a lot of times we just try to keep them on the move to minimize the impact that we have on one neighborhood and just kind of spread it around. If they refuse to move, that's where we fall into that gap of what do we do? We can't force them out. And that's where I'm looking for people to brainstorm of what other resources, what possibilities do we have, and what can we do?
Thanks, Jay. That was helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Ginny, anything else to add before moving on?
No.
Okay. Jill.
Yeah, Ginny gave a lot of my updates, which was wonderful, but just to tag on a little bit to that.
Just trying to moonlight as your second communications person.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah. So like Ginny said, we have been sleeping close to 80 individuals at the Johnson Street shelter every night. I think one of our biggest wins this winter is that, again, I have not heard of anyone who has passed away due to the cold. And so that just makes it all worth it. Just that simple piece like that's what we're here for, is to keep people alive. The main shelter on Broadway is sleeping at capacity or close to capacity every night. Yeah, so we just know that when the Johnson Street shelter closes, there are options for people, but most of them are full at this time. So definitely our homeless outreach team has been working with people who are living unsheltered to help get them connected to resources. They help people get IDs, sack lunches, other survival supplies. And also the HOT team and other staff at the Johnson Street shelter are helping prepare people for the close of the shelter, and are working with people, all of our clients and guests directly, to try to make plans for when the shelter closes on the 18th. Again, like Ginny said, we are operating at half capacity because the CDC hasn't changed anything. I just looked it up again today to make sure. And the most recent update was later in February, and things just are not moving on congregate shelter locations as far as masking or social distancing when it comes to COVID related stuff. So not seeing any movement from the CDC at all there. Other than that, I think just stating that there's a need for ongoing low barrier shelter capacity in our community, and we just need to keep talking about it.
Thank you, Jill. Any questions for Jill? Okay, how about Sue? Was that a pass, Sue, going off camera? Are you trying to unmute? There you are. I hear you and see you.
I was doing everything wrong, and all of a sudden I lost you guys altogether. Well, I don't know that I have a lot to add. I guess we're really looking forward to a lot of these apartments coming online, because a lot of our offenders in the pre-release program, they're really having difficulty finding places to live. And some of them are not going to fall into the low income category. We've had a lot of great success with employment with all the construction, for one, going on. But we have others that absolutely fall in, and it's delaying people getting out of the program because they have nowhere to go. Yeah, and I would also add to what Jay is saying about the RVs. I think some of what's happened is a lot of those have moved in back of where we're at, in back of like, well, Albertsons over here on Reserve Street, that street that's in back of there, or, they are moving around, but some are pretty trying to be pretty set. And I don't, the only thing that's ever come to my mind is we just need some land for some of these RVs to hook up even, I mean, when I say hook up, have some kind of RV park almost. And when I read about the KOA situation where they got rid of some of the trailers of people who'd been there long term and had sold those people, or sold part of that property that had some of those, I mean, I just don't know where we're headed. I mean, and I don't want to be the negative, pessimistic person here, but I really appreciate all of what you guys are doing, working on this problem. I feel like I'm very small part of any of it, but we certainly feel the impacts all the time. So thank you and kudos to all of you. And I don't know if we could find a rich donor to give us some land for parking, right? Those RVs, that would be wonderful. Thanks.
And some mechanics and sewage capabilities and permits and access to services and. Yes, but I agree, Sue.
Exactly it. I
Only we're simple.
At this point, I mean, we have had people that wanted to come work for us, but they can't afford to come here to live. We've had people that work for us that lived in a trailer out at Bearmouth, and we've had people that are working with us that have had their rents raised, $400 to $600 a month. I mean, what kind of shocker is that? Getting a lot of these apartments online, I think it's going to help every class of citizen we have here, whatever your economic condition is. So it's a pretty big deal all the way around. So
yeah, it is.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Sue. Let's go to Judge Coolidge.
Thanks, everyone. So I'm largely here to listen, but I mean, I guess tangentially related and kind of timely to what you all are talking about. Something that we are implementing and confirmed as of yesterday is monthly, what we're calling shelter court, which is basically going to be facilitated and communicated, I think, mainly through the homeless outreach team, for basically an open court session to be devoted to a remote station at the Poverello Center to encourage people to hopefully quash warrants. And in so doing, hopefully also using that opportunity to integrate people into services. I think our long-term goal is largely motivated by the kind of work Officer Gillhouse is doing, which I can say seems to be cutting edge from my perspective after hearing what other communities are doing. I'm really motivated by hearing how we're handling this. I think that we're trying to do is incorporate the court into that process as well, and trying to kind of meet people where they are more and try and utilize the court as it's a re-entry tool for services, which we hope in the long term will perhaps shift people's perception of municipal court, which we hope in the even longer term could change the frequency and the tenor of interactions with law enforcement, with folks experiencing homelessness. So that's what we've got going on. But otherwise, I very much appreciate listening to all of you. So thanks.
Thanks, Judge. And I would add, we are in the process of recruiting an MSW student to join the students that work alongside Jay and the BID program that would take referrals directly from municipal court and enroll them in a 90-day program to connect to services. So just putting that word out there, we're looking for MSW students. So yes, great work, great collaboration. Let's go, just looking who I haven't talked to. Linda, any updates from you? And you might want to introduce yourself too, since we missed you during introductions.
Of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Linda McCarthy. I'm the director of the Downtown Missoula Partnership. That is the association, the foundation, and the Downtown BID. We help fund the downtown policing program, the downtown clean team. We do a lot of work in common area maintenance and management, among other things. We are just replaced 4 employees. So we've had 50% turnover amongst our staff. So I've onboarded 4 new employees in the last few weeks. We are gearing up for a very busy and productive summer season of tourism and events in Caras Park. We have phase one implementation of North Riverside Parks and Trails under construction, adjacent to the Higgins Avenue Bridge construction. So it's been a construction zone in the riverfront corridor, which I think has, created an environment where homeless people aren't necessarily excited to be living. We are excited to have a second dedicated downtown police officer joining our team in May. We have been without a second officer since September 1. So Jay has been carrying the load downtown. One of the things that bothers me is, he's been tagged the POV cop, and he gets called every time that there is something happening. They call Jay, they being 911, right? And Jay gets deployed instead of spreading that out among other police officers. We think that's kind of a bummer that, it's hard to recruit other police officers to work the beat because the reputation is this is the POV cop. I'd like to change that, and I don't know how. Super grateful for Jay and all of and excuse my language, but he deals with a lot of BS. And he just does it in such a kind and professional manner. And we are extraordinarily lucky to have him and to have a great downtown policing program in general. I think Elizabeth kind of referred to this a little bit earlier. I think we've seen dramatic change in downtown around homelessness. I think there are a variety of reasons for that. MDAC is one of them. Coordinated entry system and collaboration is another one. A new Poverello, a new food bank, a new Salvation Army, all new facilities outside of the core of downtown has spread our homelessness problem across the community. And all of a sudden, over the last 10 years, it's much more of a collaborative community issue and not just downtown's problem. So, from our perspective, I think we're really grateful that we have better facilities providing better services. Those services have been spread out. We have zero fare transit now and have for quite some time. So that provides some mobility for our homeless people. So while the homelessness problem may be getting worse on a sort of citywide or regional or national level, in a lot of ways, it feels like it's gotten better in downtown. I've not received as many calls in this past year as I typically do. What I am getting a lot of calls about right now is graffiti. We have a terrible graffiti problem. It is all over downtown. We've lost several members of the anti-graffiti task force affiliated with the police department. So we don't have as many volunteers out, and our maintenance team can't clean graffiti until late April. We have a seasonal power washer, so we can only do it late April to October. But I suspect we have more than 1,000 graffiti tags downtown that need to be cleaned up. So we're trying to figure out how do we tackle that. But I think generally our downtown businesses have been doing pretty well coming out of the pandemic. Our vacancy rate is still below 5%. We have had a lot of investment in downtown and a lot of new businesses open over the course of the last year. So right now, it feels like things are on an upswing. And with that, I'll pause and take questions. Dan, is there anything you would like to add that I didn't speak to?
No, no, I don't have anything to add at that. I would say is if we are at reviewing the you and I and Keith, you were involved, did that, and I would be willing to work on that again if that's something that the city would like. But beyond that, I think your summary was.
Thanks, Linda. And Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you if you have any other updates, but I am going to put a link in the chat. So Linda, you were saying, like, how do we get more officers in, more excited about doing this work like Jay is doing? Well, I have a solution and it's in the chat. It's recognizing officers like Jay for going above and beyond and, directing them to our crisis intervention team academy. I'm going to plug in a little bit here. So as the CIT program manager now housed at the Missoula Police Department, we are kicking off our academy next week. This is the largest law enforcement class that we've had to date since I've been involved. We have 9 members of the Missoula Police Department attending, which we had to usually give everyone 5 people, but they're like, we want more. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's get them in. So I think we're seeing a lot of momentum around this type of work. And so just want to encourage everyone, recognize these officers, go to that link, and we're doing quarterly recognition. So that helps reinforce this work. And then I do want to put out there, speaking of training, so oftentimes law enforcement, first responders just don't know what to do in working with someone, and it doesn't go well because they don't have the tools or the de-escalation techniques. And so we do reinforce that. We do teach it through mental health first aid, the CIT Academy, and we even did a de-escalation training last week with firefighters. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Commissioner Juanita is amazing at role playing. So she comes every year, which is so great. And if you ever want to volunteer, please hit me up. I am looking for some more volunteers for our CIT Academy next week. So that's my plug. So Dan, anything that else you want to share on quality of life downtown?
Dan, you're muted.
I think he's
You're still
trying to
muted.
figure
You're
it
talking
out.
but muted. No.
Okay. We still can't hear you, Dan. Let me see. I don't know if Ginny can unmute you. I don't have those abilities for my role. Ginny, can you unmute him?
I might be able to.
There you go.
Did I do it? Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have anything further to add.
Okay, thank you. Ginny, you had your hand up. Now you're muted.
Now am I?
We can
that
hear you
should
now.
fix- No, I had 2 questions for Linda. One of them was, I would, if the BID and Downtown Missoula Partnership are unhappy with Jay being pulled into too many calls at the Poverello Center, and that if it is not the correct procedure for 911 just to call him, I would think that if you talked about it, it could be fixed, unless the police department wants that to happen, in which case it would be more complex. Jay, do you know the answer to that?
I think it's a little more complex as far as it's sharing the load and taking a lot of the incoming call for service volume off of general patrol. And the Poverello Center is within my area of responsibility, which is the Business Improvement District. So it's all about sharing the incoming calls for service with the other officers and keeping the available officers available for other incoming emergencies. So in part, I want to do my part to help my brothers out here in blue so that they're not all getting swamped. And I think the other part is there's advantages to it because I get to build working relationships with Jill and her staff and also the clientele a little bit more. And there's more of an understanding. So those are some of the advantages. The disadvantages is it takes me away from the downtown area a little bit. So I recognize the problem and I work to try to minimize the impact on that. There may be a way. It would take a lot of creative thinking on mine and my supervisor's parts to try to come up with something to even that out a little bit. I think a great start to that is going to be having a second bid officer appointed, which is going to start in May.
Yeah.
So I think it can get a little bit complicated, and quite frankly, I think those decisions are a little above my pay grade. So
Mhm. Well, I was just trying to explore if something that Linda could talk with the above pay grade people about, but it does sound as if it has been pretty well thought through. And Linda, I hope it's better with the addition of a second officer. I was also wondering if you understand what is causing the attrition from the graffiti task force. And the reason I'm asking that is I'm wondering if we should be actively recruiting volunteers.
I had
I
a
have
visit.
actually noticed that myself, like what is up with all this graffiti and
Yeah.
why are we not doing anything?
Well, I don't know if you all remember Dave Chrisman, who was our downtown
Yeah.
ambassador for about 6 years. He also served on the anti-graffiti task force. And he gave about 10 to 15 hours per week of his time, probably over the last 10 years to clean up graffiti. And he kind of, because he was a downtown ambassador and he knew the property owners and the business owners, he did most of the downtown graffiti cleanup. He retired from the anti-graffiti task force in December. So when I talked to Tracy, she has two older couples who each go out about 2 to 5 hours a week, and they have chosen to work specifically in their neighborhoods. So they're not necessarily doing downtown cleanup. So I would venture to guess the pandemic has left a lot of people without volunteers, and a lot of people are not volunteering during the pandemic. And also, Dave, as an asset, knew everybody downtown, so he could go clean up private property pretty easily, whereas generally the anti-graffiti task force is directed to not focus on private property. So I think there's a couple little things at play there. And we do have Chief White coming to our BID board meeting this month, so I'm sure we'll be talking about that, as well as how our downtown policing program is going.
In the essence of time, we have 4 minutes left. We've got Ryan and Juan that are next up. And then also just quickly, our next meeting is going to be July 14th at 1 o'clock, which is a reschedule from the July 5th meeting since that's so close to Independence Day. So make sure that's marked on your calendars. So let's go to Ryan. Any quality of life updates from your end?
No, I'm good. I'm gonna get out of here.
Okay, thank you. How about Juanita?
Yeah, no, I don't want to hold anyone up because I think I don't really have anything new to add other than we should all participate in the CIT Academy. It was really powerful to watch the fire department go through it. It made me just really proud of this community. We're really lucky to have those folks.
Thank you. Any other closing comments before we adjourn?
I did just want to say that, as we know, we're advisory to Mayor Engen, and Heidi has been taking note of everything we've said, and we'll make sure that it's all communicated to him. He is having some challenges with his illness, and sometimes he just can't be with us, and sometimes he can. So, but he appreciates everybody's participation and thoughtfulness. Thanks.
Thank you, Ginny. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, everyone, appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I'm sure I'll see most of you in between, but otherwise we'll adjourn again or reconvene again on July 14th at 1 o'clock. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice job, Theresa.